Okay, welcome everybody to today's podcast training with the one and only Brian Hoyer, the owner of Shielded Healing. We're going to be discussing EMF, RF, light therapy, how this connects to autoimmune, those of us gut compromised, and what we can do about it, how we can protect ourselves from these damaging frequencies, and how we can better understand how they affect our nervous system, our gut, our cellular health, increased chance of the big C, and all the other issues. So hopefully we can simplify, we can get success, and we can get some major takeaways today. Brian, thanks so much for joining me, brother.
Yeah, great to be here. I'm excited to talk to your audience here.
Yes, yes. And we actually have people coming in live today to learn about EMF. Say hello in the comments, guys. If we have time at the end, all of our members in the Shield program will try to hold a little bit, 5 or 7 minutes of Q&A if you have it. But first, let me ask you, how did you get into being an expert of electromagnetic frequency, radiation frequency, and how it affects our health?
Well, I started off really as a nutritional therapy practitioner. So I was seeing people and developing healing and health optimization protocols for them with nutritional supplements, doing a lot of gut healing, a lot of the stuff that your audience probably is very familiar with, like supporting digestion and then and gut healing and motility, and that downstream affects all the hormones and everything else. So I was doing that, and then I was taking some continuing education, and I took some courses from a doctor out of Seattle who's a German-trained holistic medical doctor, Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt. And he had a lecture in one of the trainings I went to that said, he basically said that nobody in my clinic recovers completely unless we address the EMF problem. And so that really hit me as like, I'm not addressing this at all. And I'm doing a lot. I'm trying to work on healing the gut and helping people to fix their digestion and all of this. And then I started implementing some of the things that he suggested, and protocols started sticking better, and everything started working better. And I would be able to get people off of their leaky gut supplement in half the time,
Wow.
and then it would stick. Like a lot of times before, I was just continually, supplementing, and there's some great, supplements out there that do a really great job for for targeting certain things with people.
Yeah. hmm
Um,
But that's a big statement right there, Brian.
yeah,
You're saying, let everyone think this in. You're saying we can't truly heal the gut while we're living in large amounts of EMF and RF, and it's continuously causing a cellular issue. It's impeding on the epithelial cell lining, which is leaky gut, so that cell lining to be strong and healthy in the mucosal membrane. So we sit here and we take our curcumin, we take our slippery elm, we take our probiotics, and then we go sleep on a mattress with a EMF under it that moves up and down, or we sleep next to our phone charged next to our head. That's causing more stress, weaker sleep, more inflammation at a cellular level. Is that what you've come to find?
yeah. Well, it has to do with the stress response. So the human body, our ancestors were never exposed to any pulsating electrical frequencies. All of this is
Never.
new. It's only
Mhm.
happened in the last 150 to 200 years. 200 years ago, it was invented, but it didn't start to become widespread until the 40s, 50s, and 60s, all around the
Yeah.
world.
And then 5G just came out at the same time as COVID. It kind of just passed us,
Yeah,
where the amount of EMF just went way up all around us.
yeah.
And at the same time, a lot of us are getting more sick. So, I'm real excited to talk about this. For all of you who don't know, I started seeing Brian's work when he really got involved with Pampa and Ben Greenfield. And I love what you did at Ben Greenfield's house. If you guys haven't checked it out, go on YouTube. You can see Brian basically help build Ben's new house for anti-EMF, anti-RF, and light therapy, which is something we're going to talk about today. Golden light. I'm really excited to talk about this.
Yeah.
Me and Brian both got that hue on us right now. So,
Yep.
so that's awesome. Can you hit, starting with the basics real quick? What is EMF? And
So
yeah, and why do we want to worry about it?
yeah, so EMF stands for electromagnetic fields, or some people say electromagnetic frequencies, because it's along the whole frequency spectrum. So the way I like to talk about it is that there's natural types of EMF that we've had on this planet and we've been exposed to in nature. The sun is a type of electromagnetic field in the visible light spectrum and invisible light, and it also gives off UV radiation and all kinds of other cosmic and gamma radiation, everything like that. We don't get a lot of that on the planet because the Earth's atmosphere filters it out. Another type of EMF is the Earth's magnetic field. So you have all of that's a more low frequency radiation. The sun and light is a higher frequency. And then, so you have low frequency over here, higher frequencies over here, and like all the ionizing radiation over here. But then there's pockets within here where we've inserted man-made radiation on this frequency spectrum. And before, the RF, the wireless radiation, was almost non-existent on this planet. The only RF we would get is distant planets or galaxies that are emitting things like faintly from stars.
Wow.
And that's why we have things like a radio telescope to see galaxies that are far away. We don't actually have optical telescopes that you can see like really things that are really far away. They're radio telescopes because all of these like celestial bodies in space are bringing radio faint radio frequencies that they can only detect in places where there's no cell phone towers, no radio towers for like a 500-mile radius in Green Bank, West Virginia. And so they have to have like that much clearance of all of these frequencies that we're putting on this planet in order to see that. So like all of the new types of electromagnetic fields are interacting with our bodies in different ways that we weren't meant to. It's a foreign energy to us.
Hmm. It's brand new to human civilization. We've just started researching it in the last few decades. What has the research shown you about EMF and gut health, cellular health, the big C? What have you seen on that end?
Well, what we've seen, there's a book called Dirty Electricity by Dr. Sam Milham, and he's an epidemiologist, and he actually catalogs like the electrification. A lot of things were going on at the time, but he was targeting looking at places where electricity was being rolled out in the 40s in farms and things, and he was seeing that there was correlations with different types of cancers and leukemias. And there's a lot of studies that show a rise in childhood leukemia for children that live near power lines, and then just all different sorts of ailments. Now, a lot of it had to do with industrialization, but with that industrialization and all the chemical spraying and pesticides and everything, we also had the electrification happening. But what he found was that the places where electricity was introduced first, they had much high, like 2 to 3 times higher rates of all of these different illnesses and sicknesses than other places that didn't have it yet. So
Interesting.
so it's not just the wireless radiation, it's also the electricity in our walls, in our homes, the magnetic fields from motors that are spinning. Because your fridge, if you have a bedroom on the other side of a fridge, it can give off a magnetic field that's just as high as if you're living underneath those high tension power lines. Which a lot of people, you look at houses when you're house hunting, and you're like, oh, I don't know, I probably shouldn't live right next to that big power station with all these wires going to and from it that are like 200 feet high or whatever. And those are the specific studies that show that a relation to childhood leukemia. And so a lot of the studies, because we're in this allopathic Western medicine system, the studies are focused on disease. But the last few decades, actually probably the last 40 years, they've been studying different types of electromagnetic radiation on what does it actually do to distort normal function in the human body. And so they've discovered that it activates voltage gated ion channels, calcium, potassium, and sodium channels, and distorts the way that your cells are signaling for when they need inflammation. So like when voltage goes over the cell, normally it's because there's some external stressor that's happening that needs to be taken care of. But now these voltages are going over the cell all the time, and when they go over the cell membrane, calcium goes into the cell and causes an interaction, a chemical interaction inside the cell to create a potent free radical called peroxynitrite. And so that's basically causing inflammation to happen on a cellular level consistently every time you're exposed to EMF, which for most people it's 24/7. They don't ever get a break from it. And so those voltage gates are concentrated in the heart and in the brain. And what they found out is that they're at a certain frequency of wireless transmissions as well. It can cause a leaky blood-brain barrier. And for our purposes and my purposes, helping heal people from leaky gut, I would start to realize that, there's the gut brain axis. And so if you have leaky brain, a lot of times it's like, no question, you have leaky gut as well. If you have an autoimmune condition, you have leaky gut. That's just the given, because your immune system, 90% of it, I think, is in the gut brain. And we want to be able to heal that so that you're not reacting to foods and different innocuous things. And so, like, what the EMF does is it causes a stress response, but actually can cause leaky brain and leaky gut. And then that can actually make everything that you're exposed to make your body more reactive to it.
Great explanation. It can make our body more reactive to food,
Mm-hmm.
more reactive to a drink of alcohol, more reactive to stress, any form of it. So, because when there's leaky gut, the tight junctions in our gut lining become separated, and then the blood vessels, the bloodstream can then be exposed to proteins, endotoxins, heavy metals, whatever may be inside that gut or what you're eating, right? The chemicals in the food, carrageenans, the emulsifiers, the VOCs you're breathing in, parabens we're putting on our face. Our whole, as you said, the leaky brain, the leaky gut, our whole body can now, it can get through our own force field, those toxins into our cells, as you said, even at a cellular level, those frequencies can cause that inflammatory response. In your opinion, do you think that there is a connection between the rise in autoimmune disease and these new electromagnetic fields and radiation frequencies?
I I am personally like 100% confident that that's the case, just based off of my experience with people in doing healing for the gut and also autoimmune conditions. And the reason I say that is because even in certain cases where we've gone into someone's house, we've tested their space, people with autoimmune conditions, we've had several that have Hashimoto's. So if you don't know what Hashimoto's is, for those of you listening, it's a thyroid condition where your thyroid is basically underperforming. And so you often get cold hands, cold feet, maybe a slow heart rate, that sort of thing. And a lot of women are dealing with this. There's been like an epidemic of Hashimoto's, especially with women. A lot of men get it too, and they don't realize it. But especially with women, that are in their 30s and 40s. Like as soon as you turn 30 or 40, it's like before then, Hashimoto's, before like maybe 20 years ago, Hashimoto's used to be something very rare that maybe women in their 50s or 60s would get. Now women are getting it right when they're going into their mid 30s. And so it's crazy. And we had a few women that have Hashimoto's that, we test their home, we they say, okay, I want to fix the problem at least in the bedroom, which is where we recommend to focus most of the energy of like fixing all of the problems, so you can give your body at least 8 hours every night where you're resting free of all of these stressors. And that's when your gut heals, when your body's doing all this maintenance anyway. But what we found is that as soon as we finished setting up this space and shielding the bedroom for these several women, that have Hashimoto's. Within the first night, one of them reported to me like, "I can't sleep in that room. Um, I'm sweating. My hands and feet are hot, and my heart is racing." And she's having all of these symptoms of hyperthyroid when she's supposed to be hypothyroid.
Mm.
And so, she happened to be a practitioner, and she was thinking about it. She's like, "I've got all these symptoms of hyperthyroid. Why am I getting hyperthyroid symptoms when I am supposed to be hypothyroid?" And then she realized, like, maybe I need to lower my dosage of my thyroid glandular or thyroid medicine. So I think she was taking thyroxine at the time, or Armour Thyroid or something like that. And she started lowering the dose, and within a week, she actually got on such a low dose that she eventually got off of it after that.
Just working on the EMF
Just
intervention.
doing the only thing that changed was just the shielding of her bedroom. And so this happened with 2 other women over the last, 5 years that we've worked with. So it's not that, and we've worked with a lot of people with Hashimoto's that they've shielded the room and this hasn't happened, but there've been a handful of them where that was like the number one stressor that was driving their autoimmune condition. So it's, with autoimmunity, with gut healing and all of this, it's never just one stressor. There's a multitude of stressors that we have, but the reason that EMF is a big issue is because it does attack the membranes. And the membranes affect every toxin, every component, every stressor that you're exposed to.
I think that's a big takeaway that to get our body truly in balance, we need a home that's protected from the EMF, RF. I want to talk about some home takeaways, some things we can do in our house today to start supporting this. I want to talk about where we can start putting our time, our dollars to attack this in your point of view. Before we get there, can you explain the difference between EMF and RF? Because there's a lot of information out there kind of going with both terms, and I think a lot of us can get confused with that.
Yeah. So when we go into someone's house, we're testing basically 5 different types of EMF. So EMF is like the full electromagnetic spectrum. If you look up electromagnetic spectrum on your favorite search engine and look at the images, it'll show you like a spectrum of low frequency to ionizing radiation. And RF is radio frequency. It's kind of like almost in the middle. So it's considered a high frequency of radiation, but the frequency is just how many times it pulses per second. And so like when you're on the low frequency end, there's electricity is 60 hertz, but your Wi-Fi is a radio frequency, and that's at 2.4 gigahertz. So so gigahertz to hertz, I think I don't remember the conversion exactly, but I think it's like maybe 2.4 million pulses per second or something like that. But every frequency is also modulated. You get into into the weeds a little bit there with the engineering of everything. But the point is that the higher the frequency, the more pulses you have per second. So
Mhm.
so basically when we're testing homes, we're testing the electric fields from the wiring in the walls. That's voltage. It kind of rides onto anything that's conductive. We're also testing magnetic fields because the electric fields in the wall also have a magnetic component. If everything is wired correctly in the house according to the National Electric Code, usually we won't have any magnetic field issues unless there's like an appliance or a motor or a breaker panel or power lines outside that are emitting a larger magnetic field. Then we have something called dirty electricity. If you've heard of dirty electricity, often you'll have like a filter, something that looks similar to this that you plug into a wall and it filters out the dirty electricity. Dirty electricity is just anything that's not 60 hertz. So, so when it's not 60 hertz, it's a higher frequency that's riding on your electrical system that doesn't even need to be there. It's just there because different appliances are dumping, they kind of have junk electronics that dump uh, these higher frequencies onto your electrical system. And the studies have shown that these types of frequencies in the hertz, like the higher hertz to kilohertz range, they actually can increase your blood sugar. And so they did a study with a Dr. Magda Havas, Havas, about this dirty electricity on people that are diabetic, and they had them going on these treadmills that had high dirty electricity, and their blood sugar would actually go up when they were exercising, which is the opposite of what's supposed to happen because you're supposed to be using up your glucose. Uh, so so it was causing a cortisol response that raised the blood sugar of these diabetics and caused them to have a blood sugar response. And then when they filtered the dirty electricity, they put some filters in the wall. They The phenomenon didn't happen anymore. And so that was the variable that was mitigated, and it showed that, like, okay, this has, especially for people with diabetes, but pretty much everybody, uh, being exposed to these frequencies is kind of like eating a donut or having like a big blood sugar spike.
Hmm.
So, so
So
dirty
you
elec
saw, yeah, the insulin go up, and that was probably from that inflammatory response you talked about earlier, where the cell gets confused, the body may get confused by these frequencies, basically causing the body to have that inflammatory response or that charge. So
Yeah,
we saw that even in diabetics with insulin, which
yeah,
is crazy. So,
they're
and that was dirty electricity. That was an example of how dirty electricity was affecting.
yeah, how dirty
Okay.
electricity affects, and
Yeah.
and that's riding along the 60 hertz that everybody has in their house. So if you're exposed to electricity, you have Romex wiring in your wall, which 99.9% of people do in their homes, then you're going to be exposed to this electricity even at night, unless you're shutting off your breakers, which I used to recommend that, but now I don't, because there's better solutions that get more of the different types of EMFs out of your bedroom, because you can actually ground your walls, ground your ceiling and your floors, or you can have a canopy around the bed that is like a kind of like a mosquito net canopy that you go on when you go on a vacation to some tropical place, and you have a mosquito net canopy. But those canopies can be made of silver, which is the one that we offer and sew up for our customers. And so it's conductive, and you ground that, and then the electricity can't get in, and you're also blocking the wireless radiation. And then the other option is this conductive paint that you can paint on the walls, ceiling, and floors, and that will ground out the electricity, reflect away the wireless frequencies, and then you're not exposed to any of the dirty electricity as well. So, and everything that we do is based on physics and real measurements. So, like, we can see the real reductions. It's not like these things that people see online that somehow they magically protect you from the EMF because you put a sticker on your phone, or you wear a necklace, or there's some magic thing you plug in and it's emitting a beneficial frequency that magically harmonizes everything. Like, I
I've
don't
bought all those.
yeah. Well, I think that, like, some of those things can be beneficial for people, but they're using EMF as a way to market something that it doesn't really have anything to do with. It would be kind of like saying that red light therapy, or, doing sauna will mitigate all the EMF in your house. Like, it can be a good therapy, or you can show that it has an effect on heart rate variability and this and that, but it doesn't mean that it has anything to do with this stressor. Similar to, like, how if you have mold exposure, you can take a lot of things that help, like, reduce the oxidative stress on your body because of the mold exposure. But really, if you're testing mold in the house and it's high, you want to get rid of that still.
Beautiful analogy. So you can do things to reduce the mold toxins, mycotoxins in your body, but if you don't get rid of the source, it will continue to perpetuate. Same thing with EMF. You can put the stickers on your phone. You can buy the things I've bought before, like these guys. But
Yeah.
what you really want to do is stop the source, which is going to change it. And then, as you said, there are better ways to block, like a netting over your bed. I want to jump into some house and protecting our home and some great takeaways. To finish what you were saying, you said you check for 5 different types of EMF. You're looking
Mhm.
for a certain level of hertz or higher. What's that level of hertz you usually say we need to change this? And I believe it was, you said dirty electricity, magnetic fields, EMF, RF being one of them. Those are the main things you're looking for.
Yeah.
And was, and so what's that hurst that someone, if they're at home and they're testing? Because I know a lot of people are going to go, okay, I want to start checking my house. I'm going to maybe get a Trifield or the Sem Protect. We'll talk about
This one.
that one right there. Yeah, that's the next one I'm going to get, guys. I'm excited about that. Brian's told me that's the best one. It's better than the Trifield right here, which is the most cost effective. You can see my own RF going nuts right now next to my
Yep.
podcast here. So tell me about the yeah, the hurts. If someone's at home and they say, okay, I want to start testing my house. And I know you have a service we're going to talk about today. I'm excited about. I'm going to be doing Brian's service, everyone, and I'll be documenting it for you so you guys can get a real understanding of what that's like. So I'm going to have one of Brian's consultants come to my house, check my whole house. We're going to do an interview on that process and go over what they find, what are the biggest sources, hidden issues. And so that's going to be coming into the Shield program here soon. But yeah, walk us through that for those beginners who are going, okay, I'm going to get one of these Trifields, get that Sem Protect. I'm going to go check all my house. What am I looking at? What's high? What's not high?
So basically, if you do get something like the Sem Protect meter, you want or the Trifield, like on this meter, you want everything in the green. On the Trifield, and then that'll basically show you like what what the safe levels are. And on this meter, you can also listen to the wireless frequencies. So yeah, like at Dane's house, he's got, is it on wire? Yeah, it's on the RF setting. So he's got a lot of wireless coming, probably from the computer. There's Wi-Fi on everyone's computer. A lot of times there's wireless keyboards, wireless mouse, different, or your Wi-Fi router. Some people have security systems or lots of smart tech, smart devices. I even had somebody who had hearing aids that were emitting just like a Bluetooth headset would emit. And that's on their head like 24/7. And so I turned off all the wireless in this woman's house, and then I'm still getting like a Wi-Fi signal, and then it was on her head that we were getting that. So we took those off and then wrapped them in some shielding fabric, and then the house was quiet. So for her, I was able to point her to a website called mdhearing.com, and most of the hearing aids on that website, besides the Volt Max, are no Wi-Fi or no wireless radiation. So like there's a lot of sources that you don't even realize. You're doing something like having a hearing aid that's supposed to be helping you live your life, but it's also blasting you with this radiation that could potentially be causing a leaky blood-brain barrier as a chronic stressor all day, all night, if you wear them at night for safety because you want to hear what's going on in your house. And so like there's a lot of things that we're not even thinking about.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. And one guy, for everyone who can see visually, I'm showing the Trifield. Brian, can you show that Sem Protect one more time? One of the members in the comments wants to see those guys.
Yeah.
Click on the link I put in the comments. Also, you guys can go to shieldedhealing.com to see that. But that's Sem Protect. That's the next one I'm going to get. I'm excited about that. That can do more than the Trifield. Okay,
Yeah.
it can check for more. It's just probably a better investment if you really want to be looking at this, which I think every one of us should start going into. How do we protect ourselves from EMF? There's a lot to learn. It can't be done in one podcast. So I want to keep moving with some of the takeaways we can do about our house today. But I think, Brian, you said this is a great cost effective one. It's a good starter one. You like the Sem Protect more to be able to really understand what's happening in the
Yeah,
house.
this one's more
Yeah.
well-rounded because it has a sound for the wireless radiation. You can hear the dut 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 of a Wi-Fi router. You can hear the different frequencies of all the wireless radiation. The Trifield is really good if you're concerned about power lines because it has a digital reading for the magnetic field. And so that one is one that we actually recommend. That's why I sell it on the website, because the magnetic field reading on that is super accurate, in line with my professional meter. This one is too, but it's more of a crude reading. It'll just show you the LEDs and whether it's safe or not. But this will measure 3 at the same time, which is really neat because you can go and you start learning the sources of what emits what type of EMF radiation, because there's 3 types that this will measure. When we go to someone's house, we're measuring 5 types. of unnatural radiation, electric, magnetic, dirty electricity, and artificial light. And then we're also measuring your body current in your bedroom from the ground voltage, that the ground currents that are happening. So those are the main stressors that we're testing for. And then we'll also even test the radiation coming up from the earth, which is another type of stressor historically that even before electricity that people were aware of.
Yeah, I love it, Brian. We've got a lot of questions starting to come in. I know a lot of people out there probably listening to this are probably asking, what about with this? What about that? I want to dive now into, let's take the example of your bedroom. That's the place we want to start to be able to heal, give our body a break from all this EMF. First question on that is the idea of grounding your bed. So we see people, and I was listening to actually Paul Saladino talk about this grounding of the bed, where he found that when he got the grounding sheets and plugged it into the wall, it was still a form of dirty electricity. I'd love to hear your thought on this versus a copper wire attached to the bed or the sheets, then staked to the ground, all the way into the actual earth. Can you tell us a little bit about this idea of grounding? How does grounding help? Let's take the example of grounding our bed, which could be one of the best things we could do and take away from today's podcast.
Sure. Yeah. So there's a lot of information out there about grounding, and there's a lot of confusion as well. And basically, the way I like to explain it to people is like the therapeutic kind of grounding is when you have your feet on the earth and you're getting negative ions from the earth, which basically is a type of antioxidant that your body can receive from nature, from being out near waterfalls, moving water, in with your feet in contact with the earth. You're getting these negative ions when you're out in these situations. Now, the grounding movement or the earthing movement is like you stick a prong into the wall, the ground of your home, and you have a conductive sheet that's on your bed, and then you lay on that, and you're supposed to be able to get grounding therapy from that. And you do a lot of times get grounding therapy from that. But the issue is that when you're grounding inside around an electrified environment, you're also becoming part of the circuit for the alternating current, the non-natural type of EMF, because all of these pulsing, all of the pulsing electricity, the AC 60 hertz that powers everything in your house, it's looking for the lowest potential and the quickest path to ground. So if you're exposed to this electric field, like you take this meter and you go in your bedroom and you see that that uh this middle one is going up high, that's the electric field. So if that's going up high or at all at anything above the green, then that means like when you're grounding your body in your bedroom, that you're becoming part of that circuit. That electricity is coming onto you and it's going through you to the ground because it's looking for the ground. So we only recommend that people ground once they've mitigated the electricity in their room. And you can use grounding.
Point.
Yeah. And you can use the grounding sheets and things that you currently have to block the electricity first. So often what we'll recommend is you put the grounding sheet underneath your mattress, and then you get a second one on top. That way, anything that's coming up from the floor, especially if there's a basement below with wiring and lighting and everything, it's coming up and it's hitting that first grounding sheet and being drained out and not coming onto your body and then going through your body to the ground.
That is a huge point. We have to block the EMF around us, turn it off. One of the questions is, we unplug things, does that help? Yes.
Yeah.
Unplugging things that are not in use will help with those frequencies. And then even though if there's that dirty electricity, if that EMF is around us, it will still use our grounding as a conductor. So it's good for us, but we have to continue to make sure we're blocking the EMF, the RF, the dirty electricity, the magnetic fields around us. And so there's a difference between being able to keep ourselves protected from it. The grounding doesn't necessarily protect ourselves from it, but it does help to release it from us. And we get those negative ions, which can be healing, good for lymph, good for blood flow, that we see when you ground your body, when you take your bare feet to the ground. It can help in the healing process, but it doesn't fully protect from the EMF around you. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. It
Okay.
Yeah, grounding can be used as a shield, and grounding your body is therapeutic. And often the two are convoluted together where someone will like show a grounding mat on your bed, and then your body voltage is like 3,000 millivolts or 3 volts on a multimeter, a tool that electricians use. And then they'll touch the grounding mat and they'll be like, see, it's the grounding mat mitigates the electricity because it goes your body voltage when you're holding the meter goes all the way down to zero. But really what's happening, if you're thinking about it, that electricity didn't go away. It's just that when you touch the grounding mat, all that electricity is still coming onto your body, but instead of going through the meter and registering on the metering equipment, it's now going through your body to the grounding mat and bypassing the meter. That's why it doesn't show up on the meter. That's why the reading is 0, because now that you've provided a better path to ground, the electricity that you once tested as being exposed to is no longer wanting to go through the meter. It's wanting to go through your body because there's a better path and it's diverting. So that is actually a fake test that a lot of people use to show the effectiveness of a grounding mat. And that does mean that the grounding mat's working, but it doesn't mean that it reduces your exposure to the field you were just testing. It just means that you've bypassed the meter.
Even if you're grounded and the meter's now showing no, a low or none, the EMF still going through your body. Is it still causing an inflammatory response at the cellular level?
Completely. Yeah.
Boom. Guys, that is a huge, huge takeaway. I hope you just got that. It's just because the meter, it's basically a bypass and hacking the meter, but
Yeah.
it's not stopping. So we need to block the EMF. We need to get the EMF off.
Yeah.
So
And
grounding your
the key to
bed
that real
is,
quick, the
yeah,
key to that is that you need to be able to have a extremely low, below 15 millivolt body voltage reading without grounding, and then it's safe to ground.
below 15 volt before the grounding.
15 millivolts, yeah.
Millivolts. I hope you guys are writing this down because I am. 15 millivolts before grounding. This is huge. And so now let's talk about blocking. And this is where shielded healing really comes into play. Shielded healing is your company. And this is an example. This I love because, a lot of us are still charging our phones in our bedroom right next to our head. That's one of the highest amounts of EMF you can expose your body to, right next to your brain. We've got to stop doing that. How can tell us a bit about this. This is one of your signature products that you can charge anything. You put this into the wall. How does this help block those EMFs for, the charging stations?
Yeah. Well, this was used to be one of the highest stressors, is when people would be plugging these in right next to their beds. And a lot of people refuse to not have them next to the bed because they use it as an alarm. They want to be available for their children or in emergencies and things like that. So basically what I decided to design, I was like, I have to come up with a solution for this. And what I found out was that most chargers don't even have a ground, number one. But even if it does, they don't connect it to the ports here. And there's metal in all these USB ports. And so what was happening is even if there was a ground, you'd plug a cable in here, and on that cable, it would leak the AC electricity onto that cable and be pulsating onto a person's body while all night long while they're sleeping. And so the same thing happens from anything that's plugged in, but especially the phone. If you're doing that, then it's often very close to the bed. And so what we did was once you ground this port like we did on all of these chargers, there's two different models. There's one that has more ports and the other one has ports. And this is a fast charger, by the way. So once you ground that, then there's zero EMF coming off of the cable. And so you can have literally a grounded phone, a grounded computer. You can actually charge your MacBook Air, MacBook Pro with this. It's like a 65-watt charger with a USB-C port. And then anything else that's USB powered, you have DC power that's grounded, that's not going to be affecting and pulsing your body. And so
Wow.
you can use this right next to your bed while you sleep. You still want to put your phone on airplane mode with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi off.
Mhm.
Uh,
But
or
it's safe. If I keep that, if I use this right here, and what's the name of this?
called the Safe Charger.
The safe charger. Okay, the safe charger, shieldedhealing.com. I can plug my lightning cable for my iPhone, my computer. I can plug that into here. This goes into the wall, and this is going to protect me from that EMF coming off.
Yeah, yeah, there won't be any EMF coming off of it. Often it will actually help lower your body voltage by a few millivolts, like 10 to 15 millivolts, even if you've got other exposures around you. But it's not a catch-all. It's just one of those things that's like everybody should do this because then you can plug it in wherever you want. Often people will be charging their phones while they're holding it. That's usually the worst thing. But with this, it's actually better because you're holding a grounded device instead of holding something that's electrified and charging and like causing that stress on your body.
So one of the first things we can do is change out our chargers. However, you are charging from the wall, you want to get a port that has a ground and acts as a safe conductor. And this is where I think this is the number one thing that you would say that shielded healing tends to, like, people come to you for these types of chargers. Would you say that?
They're usually coming to us to test their homes and set up kind of a sanctuary in the bedroom. And this
Mm.
is like one of the main pieces in the bedroom that you can install like right away before you do the whole home testing and all of that sort of thing. And then there's other products that we have for the office that help to mitigate your office. I mean, that's what I did with Dr. Pompa just a few weeks ago. I'm going to have a podcast coming out with him in a couple weeks where I went to his house and tested his office, and he had over 5,000 millivolts on his desk just while he's working all day, and he's like, I can't be at my desk. Same thing with, if you know Warren Phillips, he goes by Non-Toxic Dad on Instagram. I did the same thing. They're both in Salt Lake City, so I, 2-for-1 deal there. And he had like 5.7 volts on his desk. And both of these guys, they're like high energy guys. They're very healthy, but they feel like they can't work very long at their desks. And so now I mitigated so it's down below, I think, zero point 0.7 volts from 5 to zero point 0.7. And and like just replacing all of the non-shielded, non-grounded things with shielded and grounded versions. And all of those things you can get at theshieldingshop.com. And this is a key thing is I think I had like two safe chargers plugged under each of their desks because they had USB cables that were plugged into non-grounded uh, ports before, and this helped lower that body voltage. One thing at a time that I was replacing power cables. I had to ground the desk. There's a bunch of other things that I did as well, but it's mainly replacing all these cables that are not shielded and not grounded with shielded and grounded versions. So it's not just that it's grounded, but the cable itself has to be shielded, and the only place you can really get that is on electrohealth.com or theshieldingshop.com.
I love that. So, you just gave perfect examples of the office. I'm right in line with that office issue. We were talking about that. And for instance, when me and Brian talked, guys, we got cables for my printer, the large charging port, I don't know what you call it, the big office that everything
Oh, the
plugs
surge
into,
protector, yeah.
surge protector, changing that, making sure everything is wired. Like you can see here, my keyboard is wired, my mouse is wired. Certain things. I'm sure I could go much farther. Tell us about getting an EMF consultant, how that works, and what are some takeaways people could do today to support that bedroom? Like you go in, you commonly see the average person who hasn't studied this doesn't know the big mistakes. We know the charging port. Any other takeaways, and tell us how they could look at getting an EMF consultant to their house. I know it's in America only for all our international clients, but tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I have a team of me plus four other trained individuals, and we travel all around the United States. We hit about 40 states per year, and so we have somebody in LA area of California. We have somebody in Georgia. We have people in Ohio. We go to Florida. We go to Texas a lot. We go to New York and the Northeast states a lot, and just travel all around. I cover like Utah and Colorado and then, Washington and North Idaho. So like we do a lot of traveling and we go and we test, and it takes about 3 or 4 hours to do the testing. And all the prices are on the website. If you go to shieldedhealing.com, I think you put the link in the chat there.
Mhm.
So and we just have fun when we're at someone's house. Like if you have someone who's skeptical in the house, we try to get them involved and say like, here, take this meter, can you help me test? Because a lot of times what we found is it's mostly women that hire us, and the mothers that are concerned about their family, their husband, their kids. And so when we come into someone's house and like I just imagine my wife hiring a man to come into the house and test something to help the family. Like I'd be okay with it, but a lot of men kind of feel threatened by that. So what we found is that it's best to involve the man of the house in the process. Like
Well, you got this guy. You don't have to convince this guy right here.
yeah. So get them on board with testing, but we make it like this interactive experience where yes, we're the professional, we're coming in, we're bringing all of our professional equipment, like uh $10,000 to $15,000 worth of testing equipment into your house, and we're testing and basically building a protocol, just like Dane builds protocols for healing leaky gut and irritable bowel syndrome and all these digestive issues for people. We're coming into your house and we're building a protocol for your house to make it so that it's more healing for you and your family. So that's essentially the same, and you'll have like a whole list of recommendations within a few days after we've done the testing and we get the report back to you, and then you have a checklist, like almost like a wish list for your health. For like, okay, ultimately we want to get the bedroom shielded eventually. That's an investment. We can plan for that this year, that year, or whatever. And it needs to be one of those things that we prioritize as people who want to optimize our health. And I always tell people this, like, the reason it's such an important thing to prioritize is because it is attacking your membranes, your gut membrane, your blood-brain barrier. If you're pregnant, it's also attacks the placental barrier, and there's other barriers as well that it attacks. But here's the kicker is that like you could buy a sauna, you could buy a hyperbaric oxygen tank or chamber, you could get all these different biohacks and everything, but you have to set time aside in your day to be able to do those things. With shielding your room, you just have to fix it one time, and then every single night, like clockwork, you're getting 8 hours of healing therapy every single night. It's like the number one biohack that you can do for your health. So like it's an investment that's worth it to do this type of service because it's addressing something that's like the number one healing time for you, and you're going to be doing it every single night. So it's like compliance is 100% once you fix it, and that's for your children, for your husband, for your wife, for anybody that's in your family that you do this for. So we see amazing stories of healing all the time, and like differences in sleep. People that haven't slept for, had good sleep for decades, like the first few nights, will finally are able to get their sleep scores up if they're tracking it with an Aura ring or a Whoop strap or whatever. And it's like it's amazing the different stories that we hear. People getting off their thyroid medication, like I mentioned before,
Wow.
and, we had one woman who she started detoxing mold out of her skin the first few nights after she started sweating, and she just started detoxing mold. Her body was like, okay, I feel like I'm in a relaxed enough state, parasympathetic, that now my body is like saying like, we need to get this out now. Before we couldn't do it because of all this extra stress. We had to hold on to everything and protect it. The body was trying to protect itself, but then once it was able to relax by blocking out all this stress, you're able to actually detox better. You're able to digest
Yeah.
better, and you're able to heal better. All in general, like it's just
Regulate inflammation.
yeah.
Right. I think this is. I mean, I'm so excited about this. What's your consultant in LA? What's his name?
Benny Hammond.
Benny. I'm gonna get connected with Benny. And guys, we're gonna do another training where I'm gonna have Benny come over to my house in Orange County. and we're going to do a deep dive on how this works, so you can really see it firsthand what kind of EMF we're seeing in my house. And I've bought some gadgets, and I am almost certain Brian's going to come to my office and go, whoa, this is a problem in the bedroom. Oh, we got this problem over here. I'm super excited about it. And there's a lot we can do. We have a few questions. If you have a few more minutes, Brian, I want to go into the
Sure.
question section now. This comes from Sarah. Do solar panels give off a lot of EMF? Great question, Sarah. What are your thoughts on solar panels, Brian?
So most solar panels do give off a lot of EMF, but it's not the panels themselves, it's the inverter. So like Tesla walls give off a lot. The battery system with Teslas give off a lot. Um, and then there are some certain brands that have inverters that are almost nothing. And the issue with the inverter is that it creates that dirty electricity. So if you have solar and you're experiencing blood sugar regulation symptoms, that's a telltale sign that, hey, that inverter or that solar system is likely affecting your blood sugar in a detrimental way. So uh, we have several options for that. Like you can switch out the inverter to a more healthy one. Solar Edge is a company that makes a good inverter. Uh, called their HD Wave model is good. And then there's also another company called Enphase, Enphase, that makes a good one. And another option is if you can't swap that out, you can get a whole house filter. And everybody needs to do this anyway. You get a whole house dirty electricity filter. It's installed right at the electrical panel, and it is a whole house power conditioner, so it makes your electricity run more efficiently. And it also acts as a surge protector for the whole house. But it filters the high frequency transients, the harmonic distortion. If you're an electrical engineer, it it will filter all of that out, and that's the part of the dirty electricity spectrum that will help your house to be less damaging from a blood sugar regulation standpoint.
What company makes that whole house dirty electricity filter?
We sell it on the shieldingshop.com, and it's a
There you go.
company called Satic out of Missoula, Montana.
Okay, guys, I'm very excited about this, and I know Brian's going to be running out of time here soon, guys. But can you measure EMF in your body? I think we went over that with the grounding, and yes, we can see certain things on your body with the EMF. Let's keep going. Insulin sensors. Any issue? Have you found that to be an issue for diabetics? Insulin sensors to be
Oh
very.
yeah, like the continuous blood glucose monitors and things like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that's a big issue.
I've got one. I'll have Benny check it out. I'll put it on from I have levels, guys, the company levels where you can put it on and maybe we can check it out. But I'm sure Brian, you haven't looked at one of those before, or what are your
I
thoughts?
have. They're like most of the people that I've looked at them, they're not using it continuously. They just use it to kind of for biohacking, for like checking
Yeah.
things every once in a while, which
Yeah.
is cool. That's a good thing to do, even if you have a short-term exposure. Like it's good to know that information and you can benefit from that. But there are people that have to wear them all the time, or
Hmm.
they're told that they have to. But there is, you can revert back to what we used to do before this technology. Um, yeah, I know it's not as convenient, but I think there are models too that only emit like a near field uh frequency that aren't emitting Bluetooth all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Millie asked one that's a bit of a can of worms here. I know a lot of people are wondering. For people that travel a lot on planes, would you recommend shielded clothing to help with EMF? I know EMF's a big issue with travel. What are your thoughts there?
Shielded clothing, the only time I recommend that is when you're traveling on an airplane.
Okay.
And that's because the frequencies are contained to higher frequencies. If you wear shielded clothing out and about normally, you're exposed to a whole plethora, the whole spectrum of frequencies from lower frequencies to higher frequencies. And sometimes that clothing can actually act as an antenna at certain frequency lengths that you're exposed to, at certain wavelengths. So your clothing will resonate with that wavelength, and it can actually retransmit that signal really close to your body. So that's just like when you're a kid and you touch the antenna on the TV and the reception would get better. Like you're touching metal and now you're becoming more of an antenna. You're receiving more of that because you're touching something that's conductive. So only in
So
a plane.
okay, on plane wearing shielded clothing can be great. Do you have a company or a website you like for shielded clothing? Do you guys have shielded clothing? Actually, no?
We don't. I'm currently developing some. Probably won't come out till next year,
Mhm. Okay.
but yeah,
Okay, great
most
stuff.
of them are
And
pretty much the same right now.
yeah, a lot of them are the same. Okay. And Eileen has a good question about an alarm clock versus your phone bedside. And I think that brings in a further question about batteryized electronics. Do you find
Mhm.
that the EMF is a lot lower when it's not plugged in?
Yeah, so if you have battery that's running off a DC, that's the same energy you get from the earth when you're connected to the ground, and that's what your body uses. So DC energy is typically not an issue for people.
Okay.
If you have battery operated things, the charger itself is, this is converting AC to DC. That's why that when this cable's plugged in here, it's not affecting you. And we're mitigating the AC coming off of it, and we're only letting the DC through to charge your phone.
Okay. So most battery powered alarm clocks or battery powered devices in our house are relatively safe.
Yes, or if you get something that's USB powered, which you can find USB powered alarm clocks online, and you plug it into the safe charger, then you're good.
Mm,
But if you plug
okay.
it into a other type of USB port, it's gonna cause problems.
Yeah, and then Chelsea has a good question here. That's a big one, guys. I think we just landed a good point. Chelsea says, "What about us who rent? We don't own our homes." And I think obviously, buying what we can take with us is an answer. What are some of those things you like when you're walking into someone who's renting and they want to reduce their EMF?
Yeah, we deal with that all the
Tidbits.
time.
Hmm.
So,
And
yeah, typically we'll recommend for the bedroom, the canopy around the bed. So we have a seamstress in Nebraska that, we sourced an organic cotton and silver fabric, and when we do an assessment for someone's house, then you get access to our seamstress. Otherwise, we couldn't like offer this because they're custom canopies that are built for around the person's bed, and you want it to be organic cotton because you don't want to be breathing in microplastics and or like pesticides and herbicides and things like that. So, but you can basically put it around your bed. I actually have a big frame, custom frame that I like a wooden frame that I'm building right now that's right here to my left. I can't really show it because I can't turn the computer far enough, but um, basically you just have a frame around the bed, and then the canopy drapes over it, and then it's grounded, and then that
so,
will
yeah.
protect you.
You've mentioned that a few times, so I think that's one of the best things we can do because it's blocking all of those frequencies around us. It's
Yep.
only from the floor. We didn't ground the floor. And a few things, guys, we didn't get a chance to talk about, but you can get EMF protecting paint. You can paint your walls. You can put sheets right under your floor to help protect and block EMF coming through the floors.
Hmm.
There's a lot you can do. This silver technology can help block that too. So a lot of options there. And one other question, we got one question from Sharon. I have a quick question. If you have something plugged in, let's say a MacBook charger, right? That's
Hmm.
plugged into the wall because you don't actually have a three-port charger, right? Like if we from a MacBook, you have the three prong going into the wall. I'm not sure how to call
Yeah.
that. But if that's not plugged into the computer and it's just sitting plugged into the wall, so cables sitting in the wall plugged in, do they still create a EMF because they're plugged in, even if they're not connected to the phone, connected to the laptop,
Yes.
connected to so
Yeah.
okay. So if you're not using it, just take plugs out of the wall.
Yeah.
And is,
Yeah.
is the plug itself creating EMF?
Yeah, I mean it does, but also the wiring that's feeding that plug is creating EMF. So the plugs themselves don't really create any more than the wiring that's behind the wall if they're
Mhm.
just sitting there. A lot of people will be concerned about the plug being right next to the bed, but it you know, it if you actually measure it with an EMF meter, you'll see that like it's not really that much more where the plug is, where it's the same where the wire is behind the wall. So, but if you plug something in, you're just extending that wire from behind the wall at that connection point and bringing it into the room. Now, that's only a problem if you've got what 99.999% of people have, which is an unshielded a grounded, unshielded cable. If you go to the shieldingshop.com and you get like the shielded and grounded cables, extension cords, we've got power cables. You can replace things for like your computer monitors if it has a detachable cable. And we have all the different connectors and everything on there. And we're trying to come up with more as we see more that need to be kind of
Yeah.
innovated and invented. So I'm constantly, probably got 30 different products in queue right now where we are trying to like basically, the whole theme of the shielding shop. Like I had shielded healing for like 10 years. And then I started realizing that, gosh, I need to start making products because nobody's doing it. And I've been doing this for 10 years. Nobody's doing it. So we started the shielding shop, and the goal is to create, the slogan is technology that respects your biology. And so we are like basically reinventing and redoing everything with health in mind. And so it respects our biology. And we can do it. It's real physics that we're using. We're getting things certified to UL standards and everything with that company. So the safe charger was the first thing, all the power cables, a lot of things I consider kind of boring, but they're essential. All of us are buying this stuff and we're buying crappy versions. And like I remember at Dr. Pompa's house, like when we were done with the
Pile of
mitigating,
chargers.
I replaced everything, and we got this whole box of like all of this like power
Old
strips
stuff.
and cords and all this stuff that he had before. And he looks at it and I'm like, yeah, it's like it feels like junk food, doesn't it? And he's like, yeah, I don't even want it anymore. Like I was like, well, junk electronics. So
I love that. I love that. And one more people, we got to end. I got to respect Brian's time, but Sharon's asking about a Bluetooth insulin sensor, bedside, connected to her phone. Anything Bluetooth is going to create like do you call that dirty electricity? Do you call that radiation frequency? How do you point
yeah,
towards Bluetooth?
it would be radio frequency. You're right.
Radio frequency. Okay. So it's going to anything Bluetooth, guys. That's why the headphones, you want to get headphones that are actually connected in that have a wire. You want to get anything, and we were talking about the levels, the CGM, continuous glucose monitor, or any kind of insulin sensor that's Bluetooth. They're going to have some about it. I mean, listen, guys, if we can mitigate, just like seed oil, just like gluten, just like glyphosate, mitigate it, get the levels way lower, we're going to be a lot better. There's a lot of takeaways here. Corey says, love this training. Thank you so much, Brian. Can't wait to see the interview with the house testing. Yes, we're going to get that in. I'm going to hit up Benny. We're going to make that happen with Brian. Sarah, she's like, what do I do in the UK? Brian, help me in the UK. Brian, you got anything out there for him?
I do. There's a gosh, I don't remember what the guy's name is.
Maybe
It's
we could ship, maybe because I got a warehouse in Florida, and maybe I can ship from Florida to UK. Sarah, I'll talk to Brian's team about that and see if we can
yeah.
get some, like, if you guys get a bulk order out to Europe or something, maybe I can do something for you guys.
Yeah,
Go
but
ahead.
the thing is we'd have to, for a lot of the products that we have to fix, like change the voltage to UK voltage. I am actually working on some products for the UK.
Yeah.
I have if she wants to get an EMF test in the UK, I do have somebody from this company called EMF Protection. If you
Okay.
can see that.
EMF Protection in UK. Is there is there an email or something I could write your team? What do you think, Brian? How can
Yeah.
can our
You
people
can
out there
write us
be?
and ask us for referral for the UK.
Okay,
Anyone listening?
UK EMF Protection. Sarah, can you send me an email on that so I can make sure we don't forget to do that for you? Where I'll write Diane or whoever's best in your team, Brian, to see if we can get connected with the UK EMF Protection.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right, Brian, thank you so much. This was very helpful. I know this is going to help people for the next many years with IBD and how they can start understanding EMF, RF, dirty electricity, checking out their house, EMF consulting. I'm going to put all the links below for you guys. Brian, thank you so much. Maybe we'll have you on again in the future to further this conversation, but I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for time. Everyone's so happy you're here. God bless. Thanks, Brian.
Awesome. God bless. Bye-bye.
Hey.